Okay, welcome back. I think we got an exciting show today because we're going to be talking about how you can play your entire Steam library anywhere you want using your Oculus Go or basically any Android device using a Steam Link and a couple pieces of free software, and we'll walk you through it right now. And then we're going to talk about the results, the feasibility of doing something like this, and whether or not it'll work for you. Let's do it. Okay, things you're going to need as far as hardware. You're going to need a modern Wi-Fi router. You're going to need an Android device. You're going to need the Steam remote control. No other remote control will work, not even the Xbox S Bluetooth remote. It's because you have to use Steam Link for this. Moonlight and other methods will not work on the Oculus Go. So other than that, the software I'm using, or the method, is Zerotier. That's a freeware that will set up a virtual network for you to bridge the two devices, and that has a really nice interface to it. The second piece of software you're going to need is Splashtop Remote Access. That's a free app for Android and PC. You're going to need to install it on both. One nice benefit of this is that when you set up the virtual network with Zerotier, you will be able to bypass the restrictions on Splashtop that would not allow you to remote desktop access outside of your home network without paying the $5 a month fee. So it thinks the two are on the same home network at that point, and it works just perfect. You can actually play some games with Splashtop, but that's restrictive because all you can do is gesture the hand for mouse controls. Can't even right click as far as I can tell. Well, not in a convenient way that would work for games. Steam works well though with the Steam remote. The Steam remote is not a bad remote. It just takes some getting used to. We kind of train our hands to use Xbox or DualShock, and the Steam remote is a little different. It's kind of grown on me. It's not a bad remote. And then I guess the other things we need to cover is you might run into issues with poor connectivity. In that case, it's going to be most likely port forwarding, and don't be too afraid to get into that. It's actually quite easy, and I can leave you a link for testing purposes. You could even just open up all your ports, but that's not going to be an issue for everyone. Zerotier has worked very well for everyone I've talked to and read of discussions about it. Yeah, it's got a great interface. So as far as the quality of the experience, that's obviously going to be largely dependent on the connection that you're able to get. Now, in my case, I was using the pizza place across the street that has a really good 55 megabyte download speeds if you sit close enough to the bar. I was sitting pretty far away the other day, and I had a 30 megabyte download speeds, which, I mean, it was Friday night. The place was packed, and it wasn't, I don't think it was the download speed. It was probably the connection stability, but it stabled out, and it was a perfect gameplay experience. Obviously, I didn't use the Oculus Go because I was in a restaurant, but on the Note 4, which isn't exactly cutting edge anymore, that thing had no issues, and in my experience, the Oculus Go just does a better job of turning Wi-Fi into a gaming experience, whether it's with the Steam Link or Moonlight or whatever. It's just it's a dedicated kind of system for gaming, and it works well. I think we're going to do a video tutorial to help people set this up, and then I'll probably talk about get a little deeper into the actual results you get and how it's going to vary for you depending on your situation as far as what kind of minimum requirements for the connection on the outside of the home side of things. Okay, let's get started on the tutorial. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is only for Oculus Go people. If you're on a standard Android device, you can totally skip the step, but it's pretty fast. Basically, just going to go to the search bar in the Windows taskbar thing, type in CMD, enter, and that gets you the command prompt. At that point, you're already going to need to have installed ADB. That's pretty easy. Just do a Google search for ADB, install it on your computer. Some of you might have to follow an additional step, but that's already part of the instructions there. But at this point, you got the command thing open, type in ADB, verify you installed it correctly. You'll see that wall of text. Just make sure it looks roughly like that. Type in ADB again, type in, well, first plug your Oculus Go into your PC, enable developer mode by having Bluetooth on your phone and the Oculus Go, go into advanced settings, hit the tab that says developer. If you don't have a registered developer account, it takes about 5 seconds and they'll direct you to the page. Just tell them you're making a game or whatever. So at that point, you got the Oculus Go plugged in to the computer, you got ADB up and going. Type in ADB devices to make sure that the device is being recognized properly. Now, you may find that you have to put on, it'll prompt you and tell you that it's waiting on the device. If it says that, put on the Oculus Go, and just, it'll have an OK button, and it'll say a little checkbox, and say hit the checkbox that says always remember this PC, hit OK, and then you're good. And your device will be recognized as you see mine is. And then what you do is start installing the necessary APK files. So to do that, you download them, but Google search will find any APK you want very easily. And all you have to do at this point is type in ADB install and then space the directory that you put your APK into, and then the name of the APK with the .apk included. Hit enter. It'll only take a second. Oh, yeah. So the only reason that one failed is because it already was installed. But yeah, that process is pretty easy. Okay, now that we got all the APKs installed on the Oculus device, we're going to move on to the next step. And now what you're looking at here is Zerotier. What I did was installed it, then I went to the little task tray down here, right-clicked on that and hit Zerotier Network, which brought me to this screen that you see right now. I've already set up my network, but to do that, what you do is click on Networks, click on the Create button, and then your new network will show up right here. That little number in the blue circle is how many devices are currently logged into the network. It appears that no devices, including this PC itself, are logged into the network right now. To do that, I'll just click right there, get one logged in. Sometimes you'll notice that when devices are logged in or log off, well, first of all, to notice it, you have to see, this is where you'll get that information. And okay, see, I get this little question right here from my Windows, and it says, ask me if I want to allow it, and I said yes. And so what I was going to say is you'll see quite a delay unless you do the right kind of refreshing as far as the device showing up here. So I'll just refresh that page, and it probably won't show. Oh, showed up. Sometimes you got to go back. And so this is the first device, the home PC. You see, that's some of these numbers will help you figure out. Once you get a bunch of devices, sometimes you just want to look at the numbers, figure out which one is which. So basically, you're going to go to Zerotier on either the Google Play Store or just access their webpage with your Android phone. Or as far as getting the APK onto the Oculus itself, you're going to want to actually Google Zerotier APK and get it from somewhere other than their official site, and then sideload that. So basically at this point, all you got to do is fire up the APK on the Android, and it's a very straightforward process of hitting the plus sign in the top right corner next to the tool and then adding a network. At that point, it's going to ask you for your network ID, and that is really easy to find. You just hit settings, and it says right there in that yellow box what your network ID is. Put that in, minimize that, go down to your devices, and see these little gears. Any of the devices that you're going to want to be using for this process, you have to have that check mark that says allow Ethernet bridging. So I got 4 devices. I don't know why. I've been hooking up a lot of stuff, but you hopefully will just have the home PC and your away device. Hit that on both of them. Make sure that that box is checked, and then you've got your virtual network. Make sure the on switch is flipped on the portable device, and that the home PC is on the network. By when you go to add it, it may not find it. It found it one time for me. The first time it didn't, and I actually had to click the button in Steamlink to add the computer manually, and at that point this number next to the trash can was the one I entered in that got it to work. I don't think you're gonna have to do that though, but if it helps, then there it is. Okay, step 3, we're gonna be checking out Splashtop now. Splashtop is super easy to install and get going, and pretty useful too. I feel like it works really well. So basically, install it onto your home PC. Getting an error right now. I haven't got this before, but hey, let's just refresh it. Ouch. Okay, I believe I figured out what the problem was there. I was using the Splashtop client instead of the Splashtop streamer on the home PC. So that obviously was never going to work. And boom, there we go. It's up and running on the home PC. Now I just have to go over to my Android device, fire up the Splashtop app, and I can already see that the home PC is popping up and is available. At that point I click on that, and then there's two options, and you click on the one that says remote PC, I think, whatever. Voila, it's working perfectly. Okay. Yeah, Splashtop's super easy to use, and actually quite useful for this, because I think the only time you absolutely need to use it during this process is the first time you set up Steamlink at that location away from home. It's going to want you to put in a 4-digit code into your local Steam client at home, and to do that, that's when you need Splashtop. And if it's not obvious, click in the field where the numbers go, and then Splashtop has a little button in the bottom right corner that looks like a bunch of dots together. You hit that, it expands into a toolbar that includes a keyboard and some other stuff, and that's all you need to get that taken care of. I do advise turning Splashtop off after you're done using it, just to play it safe. Using it in home, I didn't have any issues leaving it on, but freeing up any processing power, bandwidth, or whatever is going to be the way to go. Alright, on to step 4, which is basically just connecting the devices and testing out the network and then playing a game on it. So the first thing you want to do is log into the Wi-Fi on your portable device away from home. Probably do a Google speed test and see what the download upload speeds are, assuming that they're acceptable, which I would say the more the better, but stability to the network is very important. If it's really fast but you get packet loss and kicked from the network and stuff that interferes from just a gaming experience, then that's no good, no matter how fast the speeds are. So ideally it would be somewhere in the 15 to 30 megabyte download speeds. If you get 30, that's going to be a rock solid no issue experience. You can probably have a playable experience on a stable network as low as 5 megabytes. We may have to adjust the stream settings a little bit, but it doesn't take as much bandwidth as some people think if the network is reliable. That's the key. Now if you run a Steam network performance test, you'll see that little white graph bar. It looks like a heart rate or whatever at the top, and then if you watch it closely, sometimes you'll see a little red hash mark below it, and that's where you're going to experience just a gap in your gaming experience. And so that's ideally you won't see any of those red little hash marks, but if you do, try to do what you can to get a little more solid internet connection, and that may mean port forwarding, which we talked about a second ago, but it's not difficult, and you can probably get somebody to help you or follow an internet tutorial or whatever, but basically you're just going to go to open up your web browser on your home PC and type in to the address bar myipaddress.com, hit enter, copy and paste your IP address into into your browser search bar, and make sure it's not searching for it but actually going to the address, and that should take you to your modems, your router settings. I might have left mine up, I think. Yeah. And so you're going to have different software depending on what kind of router you have, but they're all basically the same. And in my case, the forwarding was under advanced and forwarding, and I was unable to create an IPv6, but the IPv4 worked fine. And it's not to say that the IPv6 is necessarily better for what we're doing, so I wouldn't really worry about that. But this was all very straightforward. I'll edit it and show you exactly what is going on in there. I opened up a really wide range of ports, but all you need to open up is the Steam ports, which is basically 2731 through 27037. Yeah, I'm going to repeat that. 27031 through 27037, and go ahead and put the protocol for both if it'll allow it. I don't know why mine's on TCP and not both, but it worked. That's really odd. I'm going to look into that later. It should be on both. You definitely, if you're having port issues, it's recommended to do the TCP and UDP, but not everyone's going to have them, and maybe the solution is different for different people. This worked for me. I think that's it for step 4, and that pretty much wraps it up, except for the people who are specifically using an Oculus device, and all they need to do is familiarize themselves with the process of sideloading and using App Starter and, well, Oculus TV, and then App Starter within that. Once you get the App Starter, that is where you'll get the opportunity to sync up your Steam remote through the Bluetooth in a way that'll actually carry over to a video game. No other methods of hooking up controllers will work for this. So do that. The Steam remote is a little goofy, but basically you're just going to want to hold down Y and then the power button until this thing starts blinking, and at that point the Steam Link will be ready to sync up with it, and you'll get a little check mark there. So you want to have basically those 3 check marks for hooked up to the home PC, hooked up to the remote, and I think the bottom one is it stable enough internet connection, and then you're off to the races. But the Oculus Go owners, yeah, you got to do the Oculus TV App Starter method, and then launch Steam Link within Oculus TV. Well, first you would want to launch Zerotier, get that network turned on, and then Steam Link, and it all works pretty smooth, other than I had an issue with port forwarding. And yeah, I was really happy with the way the whole thing played out. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be as far as setup, and now I'm not petrified of the idea of port forwarding before, because I never really understood it and didn't want to do it. And I'm really happy with just the ability to play my Steam library when I'm at the hotel as soon as I get my hands on a standalone 5G hotspot, because the hotel internet is just trash. It's like 2 megabyte download speeds up to 5, but just massive amounts of packet loss and disconnects from the network and stuff that make gaming for more than 5-10 minutes not really doable. But I think I mentioned before, Steam does help you when it comes to getting back into the game. Like as soon as the internet comes back, that's all you need, and then hit play on the Steam Link interface that'll pop up by then. The game, as far as I know, won't pause just because you got disconnected, which is kind of unfortunate, but I need to play around with this more, but I'm mostly thinking about playing games like Telltale's games, maybe Civilization because it's turn-based, and testing out other games like first-person and third-person shooters, which seem playable, but I'm just happy to have access to the Steam library. All right, I think that's it for the tutorial. We're probably going to just talk briefly about what you can expect from your connection to Steamlink. Okay, now that we got that all sorted out, let's talk briefly about what you can expect from your performance in this situation and whether or not it's really feasible or viable for you. Obviously, as we brought up before, it's largely going to be dependent on what kind of internet connection you have, and it's not just your download speed, it's the overall stability of your network. You're talking about frame drops, or packet drops, frame loss, getting dropped from the network and have to reconnect. So those kind of things also play a big factor. And what you want to look for is just a quality router, Wi-Fi, hopefully I would say definitely a 5G network on the away from home client. And other than that, if you can control that, you're going to have a good experience. So what I'm going to probably look into doing for myself when I stay at the hotel for work is getting a dedicated Wi-Fi hotspot, piece of hardware, and data plan with somebody like I've heard T-Mobile actually is offering some pretty good speeds. The speeds at a typical cheap hotel are going to be probably, in my experience, 2 megabytes to 5 megabytes. And if it was 5 megabytes and it was a steady connection, that would probably work if you tone down your streaming settings enough. But that's pushing it. So what you really want to do is find a solid connection, and that might mean setting it up yourself with a standalone Wi-Fi hotspot. Now I know a lot of people have some pretty nice phones and may have a pretty good data plan, and depending on how often you're planning on using something like this, that might be a perfectly fine option for you as well. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button. I got some big plans for some videos I'm going to be doing very soon.